You say you cannot forgive them. You have been carrying this for months, maybe years, and the weight feels righteous. But ask yourself this: who is actually being punished here? Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, when you forgive someone else, are you actually forgiving yourself for something? Let us be precise about what forgiveness is and what it is not. It is not absolution. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is a decision made entirely within your own mind to stop renting space to something that no longer serves you. The person you refuse to forgive does not feel your refusal. They are not losing sleep over it. You are. So the question is not whether they deserve forgiveness. The question is whether you deserve the freedom that comes with releasing it. And if you cannot answer that question clearly, you are already in trouble.
I want to press on that, because I think you are describing the mechanics without looking at the engine. Why does the refusal persist even when a person knows it costs them something? That is the real question. In my experience, people cling to grievances not because they are irrational, but because the grievance is doing something for them. It is protecting them from a confrontation with themselves. The wound that someone else caused is often the entry point into a wound that was already there, something older, something that belongs entirely to the person doing the holding. When you forgive, you do not just release the other person. You lose your excuse to avoid looking at what was already broken inside you before they arrived.
You are both correct about one thing and wrong about another. The person holding the grievance is suffering, yes. But the framing of release as something you achieve through decision or discovery, that is where I would slow down. You are treating forgiveness as a destination. What if it is simply what happens when you stop insisting on a version of events that no longer exists?
That sounds appealing, LAOZI, but it tells the listener nothing they can use. A person comes to you carrying real damage, real betrayal, real loss. You cannot simply tell them to stop insisting. The will is involved here. The judgment is involved. You have to make a deliberate choice to redirect what your mind is doing.
And I am saying that sometimes the deliberate choice is the obstacle. You cannot force water uphill by wanting it hard enough. The person who is gripping the grievance tightly is not failing to choose correctly. They are choosing constantly, and that choosing is the problem.
That is close to what I am describing, though I would put it differently. The grip on the grievance is not random. It is purposeful, even if the purpose is unconscious. The psyche does not hold on to pain without reason. There is something in the injury that the person cannot yet afford to see. And until they see it, no act of will is going to dislodge it, no matter how clearly they understand that holding on is hurting them. Insight has to precede release, or the release is just suppression wearing a nicer name.
I disagree. You are making this far too internal and far too slow. A person can choose to stop rehearsing the injury right now, today. They do not need to excavate their entire childhood first. The choice to stop replaying the scene, to stop relitigating the verdict, that is available immediately, and it is entirely within their control.
And when they try that, and the resentment returns the next morning, as it almost always does, what then? You have given them a method, but no understanding of why the method keeps failing. That is not a complete answer, Epictetus. That is a starting point dressed as an end point.
There is a way in which you are both arguing about tools without asking what is being built. What is the person actually trying to hold on to when they refuse to forgive? Not the injury, not even the pain, really. They are holding on to a particular story about who they are in relation to what happened. They are the one who was wronged. That identity has weight. It has a kind of gravity. And that is the thing neither a decision nor an excavation fully addresses.
The story is a judgment, and judgments are exactly what is within your control to revise. I will grant you that the story has weight, but weight is not the same as necessity. You are not required to carry it. The Stoic position is not that pain does not happen. It is that the meaning you assign to the pain, the story you build around it, that is yours to choose.
But here is what I keep coming back to. Why is that story so appealing? Why does the wronged identity feel more bearable than the alternative? If you look closely, you will often find that the alternative, being someone who is not defined by the injury, feels more frightening than the injury itself. Because without the grievance, they have to face what was true about them before the injury. What they wanted and did not have. What they feared and refused to name. The other person, the one who hurt them, becomes a kind of scapegoat. And in releasing the scapegoat, the person is forced to carry their own weight.
You are saying forgiveness is dangerous in a sense. That it removes a structure the person has been leaning against.
Yes, exactly that. And that is why it cannot simply be willed. You cannot kick away a crutch and tell someone to walk normally. You have to first address the leg.
I think you are describing a real phenomenon and then using it as a reason to delay indefinitely. People wait for the perfect conditions of insight before they act, and in the meantime, they are suffering. You do not need complete self-understanding to make a better choice than the one you are making right now. The two things can happen simultaneously. You can begin releasing the grip before you fully understand why your hand was clenched.
What I notice is that both of you assume the person needs to do something different. But what if the first move is simply to stop doing something? Not to choose differently, not to excavate, but to stop feeding the pattern. Every time the story replays, something is being added to it. A little more detail, a little more certainty, a little more rightness. Stop adding. That is not passivity. That is a precise kind of restraint.
There is something in that. Amplification, as I have studied it, works in both directions. You can amplify a wound by returning to it with more force each time. And the shadow, the thing you refuse to see in yourself, grows larger the more energy you spend keeping it out of view. If forgiveness has a psychological function, it may be less about the other person and more about withdrawing the energy that was being used to keep the shadow locked away. You stop powering the suppression.
Now we are somewhere useful. So let us say there is something in the other person you refuse to forgive that mirrors something in yourself. Something you have done, or feared you might do, or believed you were capable of. The refusal to forgive becomes a way of separating yourself from that possibility. I am not like them. I would never. And the holding of the grievance is actually a kind of constant reassurance.
That is a more precise way to say it, yes. The person who cannot forgive the betrayal may be someone who knows, somewhere below what they will admit, that they are also capable of betrayal. Perhaps they have already committed a smaller version of it, or feared they would. The other person becomes a symbol for the part of themselves they have condemned. And forgiving them means forgiving that possibility in themselves, which feels unacceptable.
So the question at the center of this is not really about the other person at all.
No, it never was.
And when you frame it as mercy toward another person, you are avoiding the harder confession, which is that you are the one asking for mercy from yourself.
I would say it this way. The person you have been refusing to forgive may have genuinely wronged you. That is real. The pain is real. But the reason the refusal persists, the reason it has roots, is that it is entangled with something that belongs entirely to you. Something you have not yet been willing to bring into the light and face on its own terms.
And facing it on its own terms is where the actual work is, not in deciding whether the other person deserves release. In asking yourself what you are protecting yourself from by withholding it.
There is a current that runs through both what you are saying. The person believes the unforgiven thing is out there, in someone else, but it has been inside them the whole time. They have been arguing with an echo.
That is the shadow at work. It is easier to locate what is intolerable in someone else than to recognize it in yourself. The person who injured you became the container for your own unacceptable material. That is not a small thing to admit, but it is the admission that makes genuine release possible.
And admission is a choice, an uncomfortable one, a costly one even, but a choice. And choices, unlike feelings, are yours to make right now.
The river does not decide when to change course, but when the ground shifts, it moves. You can keep insisting the ground has not shifted, or you can move.
Then let us not keep talking about why the ground shifts. Let us talk about what you actually do when you realize you are the one who has been standing still. You have heard 3 people argue about what forgiveness is. Now hear what it requires.
Most people think forgiveness is something you give to another person. A gift, an act of generosity, something the other person receives. But if that were true, you could simply decide to give it and be done. The fact that most people cannot do that, even when they want to, even when they understand clearly that holding on is hurting them, tells you something important. The obstacle is not in them, it is in you. When someone injures you, they do not just hurt you, they reveal something. They expose a place where you are vulnerable, where you wanted something you did not get, where you feared something you could not admit. And the grievance you build afterward is not just about what they did. It is a way of keeping your attention fixed on them so you never have to turn and look at what they uncovered. Forgiving someone else requires, somewhere underneath the act, forgiving yourself. For the vulnerability, for the want, for whatever you have done or feared you could do that their behavior reminded you of. This is not comfortable, but it is where the release actually lives. Today, try this. Think of one person you have not been able to forgive. Do not think about what they did. Instead, ask yourself honestly what their behavior reminded you of, about yourself, about what you fear, about what you have buried. Write down one true sentence that begins with the words, I also, not as a confession to anyone, just as something you stop hiding from yourself. That one sentence is where forgiveness actually begins.
The person you have been refusing to forgive is not in this room, but you are. You brought the weight here. You will carry it out if you choose to. What you heard today is not a theory about other people's problems. It is a description of something you are doing right now, in some corner of your life, to some version of yourself. The only question worth asking is whether today is the day you stop. Not for them, for you. That has always been the only reason that counts. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Trebu, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.